So I think I figured out how they built the pyramids, and don't worry, I'll have pretty pictures for you later. I don't know if someone else has thought of this before. I'm sure someone has. I'm sure the people who built them has. No, it doesn't involve space aliens or Atlantis or other silly stuff. Just good old-fashioned human ingenuity. A couple things to keep in mind. The ancient Egyptians were humans, just like you and me. They were capable of the same thoughts, right? And some of them were quite intelligent. They had their own Einsteins, Newtons, people with very high IQs, even though the vast majority, just like today, aren't quite super bright. So, how did they build the pyramids? Well, I'll cut to the chase. Boats. Now, you might be saying, oh, well, yes, the quarries where they got the rocks were from hundreds of miles away, and the commonly accepted theory is that they brought big boats to sail the rocks up the river, basically, right? Which, fine, fair enough. The geologists say that the rocks in the pyramids came from hundreds of miles away, and that's where they came from. I don't know how easy it is to tell where rocks are from, but fine, fair enough, doesn't matter. So then you're saying, oh, but how did they move them up into a pyramid shape, basically, and position them correctly and everything, right? That's the real mystery. So, yes, they had lots of workers. But for my theory as to how it happened, you need lots of workers. Yeah, but you wouldn't need like millions and millions or something, right? About the population that we think existed at that time would be about sufficient. So, if you know anything about how the Panama Canal works, or the Suez Canal works, you know about locks, right? So basically you get a boat with the rock on it, right? Let's say you move them one at a time. And they could have used wood or dirt or a combination of both to make these stones, get these stones on the boat, right? And you can build a dam structure in the way in the Atlantic and Pacific are not the same level. So they have to adjust the boats to go up or down, right? To match the sea level of the other sea. So using dirt, which they could have easily done, they could have easily dug canals. We know they built irrigation. So we know that they dug canals from the Nile River to water their crops. They could have easily just built a big one to take it from the Nile to the Giza, right? And build a series of locks and dams. And you might be saying, well, that requires the pumping of water. How are they going to pump water, right? Well, back in the day, they had Archimedes' screw. Now, he came after the pyramids. Either he reinvented the Archimedes screw, very possible, or he just took credit for something that had already existed. Also possible. Archimedes was a genius. I'd say, he probably reinvented it. It's not that complex of a thing. It's a screw. And it just takes good old-fashioned elbow grease to get it going, and you can pump water uphill. Or into another tank, basically, above, and then open up that lock, and the boat floats up and rises, and you do another one, and it rises again until you get to the level of the pyramid where you want the thing, and you simply row your little boat over. Well, maybe not row. Actually, maybe. You row your boat over to as close as you can get to the location, because it'd have to be pretty deep underwater to carry such heavy stones. The boats would have to be very big in order to provide enough buoyancy, but not astronomically big. We know they built boats. We know that they buried boats around the pyramids. We found them. And people say, oh, they're for ceremonial purposes. Sure, I believe you, but come on. Now, that's how you can move the stones. You get them close enough, and then you can just lever, wedge, push and pull, get 1,000 strong guys, and get it to exactly where you want it. But that's only moving it a couple feet, right? A couple meters maybe. Horizontally, sliding it. Put some butter on the bottom, my goodness. Right? So you might be thinking, well, how did they cut these stones? Sure, they could have done the whole pick with a stone on stone, or their copper picks, which we know that they had. But like I said, they had plenty of smart people, very, very smart people, smarter than any of you, smarter than me, that could have thought of ideas to come up with ways to cut these things. They could have invented a saw, very possible. We see some of the stones, they're so smooth cut and everything that they had to be done for saw. Well, why not? It's not that difficult of a thing to design. They could have developed iron and kept it a very close secret and used iron or even steel saws to do this, and they kept it a secret, which is why we never found out about it. Maybe this iron was so considered sacred and strong and like basically secret technology that it was ceremoniously destroyed after use. I mean, it's not that difficult to think of. There doesn't need to be Atlantis. There doesn't need to be space aliens with tractor beams and other baloney. Good old-fashioned human ingenuity with stuff that they very easily could have made and done themselves. What? Dig a trench? Check. Normal humans can dig trenches. Build a lock and dam out of wood and or soil? Yeah, they can do that. Build a saw? Yeah, they can build a saw. Use boats. I mean, an Archimedes screw is very rudimentary and effective. And even if not, they could have just used buckets of water and gotten it up there. I mean, really. You'd be surprised how much a little bit of old-fashioned elbow grease can go. That's how they built the pyramids. It's not that difficult. I don't know why people come up with these crazy... it wasn't goblins or fairies or space aliens. It was... And it didn't... they say, oh, well, in order to have the incline, they buried under sand and everything. It would have had to stretch for miles or whatever. Sure, I haven't checked the math on that, sure. But not with locks and dams. You don't need that much at all, in fact. You do it properly. It has to be big. You have to build it up and everything. But not impossibly big, not impossibly complex. Doable for a sophisticated culture of that time with that sort of technology that they could have built. Very doable. And that's probably how they did it. There's some pushing and pulling, pulleys, levers. These aren't that hard to think of. So that's how I think they did it.